If I had one!
Well, hello there, it's Blue here at Bluebears Games, and this week we're doing the second deck of two that was ordered by the same customer. It is a commander deck, and as you can see, this one's a lot different than last week's. So, same colors, but a way different theory. We're going to be focusing on Pramikon Sky Rampart. This one's a very different deck, so let me explain how he works, and then we'll go from there. And then I'll explain kind of what what was requested. Alright, so red, white, and blue, and no colors, so it starts off pretty cheap. It's a 1/5 wall. It has flying and defender, and when it comes into play, you choose left or right. It's a little different, but we choose left or right. And then it says, each player may attack only the nearest opponent in the chosen direction, and planeswalkers controlled by that opponent. So what that means is that you can only attack left or right. Now, back in the day, we used to have Chaos games where that was one of the rules where you chose, to make the games more fair, you could only attack left or right. Pramikon just basically makes that a rule. So, deck's kind of interesting. The request for this deck was, steal and copy. So let's see how we did that. Alright? Let's move Pramikon out of the way, and I'll go over the lands first, as I always do. Let me zoom out so you can see everything. Alright. So, Command Tower, Mystic Monastery, looks familiar because this deck is going to have a lot of similarities to last week's. The one difference, though, is that I went with tapped lands here because this deck is a little slower, and it's okay to be a little slower because people aren't going to take it seriously anyway. So, Highland Lake, Meandering River, Stone Quarry. The ones that gain you life: Swift Water Cliffs, Tranquil Cove, Windscarred Crag. Then you got the gates, and the gates are important, and I'll show you in a little second. Not that important, but at least there's some synergy here. Izzet, Azorius, and Boros Guildgate. Exotic Orchard, Shimmering Grotto, Painted Bluffs, and then an Evolving Wilds to kind of help thin out the deck a little bit. And then the rest are just islands, mountains, and plains, and as I said last week, and I say every week, if you need to see the actual amount of everything, there's a deck list posted in the description. So that's the land section. Ramp, a little similar to last week's deck. Soul Ring, an Arcane Signet, an Armillary Sphere, a Commander Sphere. However, I'm going to go Bonder's Ornament. For this build, it's 3 to cast. You can add a mana of any color, but you can also draw cards off of it. This deck is not based... So the reason why this wouldn't be in my Kakar build is because I want to cast spells to draw cards, because you want to get the trigger off Kakar. For Pramikon, there is nothing like that, so Bonder's Ornament helps you draw cards, because the rest of this deck is not going to help you that much. So, Navigation Orb, so 3 to cast. You can pay 2, tap it, and sack it to search your library for up to 2 basic lands. Or Gates. I'm sorry, Endor. So, follow that for a second. You search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and/or, so that's up to 4 cards, by the way, 4 lands. Reel them and put them on the battlefield tapped, and then, put one onto the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand. So, oh, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. I'm so sorry, I read that wrong. Endor means you can go for either 2 basic lands, 2 gates, or 1 gate and 1 basic land. Put 1 into your hand, 1 into play. And then, of course, Burner Chart. Like I said, there's going to be some similarities between Kakar and Pramikon, and if you haven't seen the Kakar deck, I highly recommend it. Kakar is so fun. So that's the land ramp. Not too special. Obviously, this one was the $40 budget deck because this one was kind of hard to get up there. The idea of it's kind of difficult. Only attacking left or right was kind of a hindrance to it. The one good thing is with Pramikon out, though, you're not going to get attacked from all angles, so you're only dealing with one opponent. That's the good thing. So, going forward, creatures. Steal creature stuff. Copy stuff. That's what we're looking for. Sea Singer. If you've never seen a Sea Singer before, this is Sea Singer. It can steal creatures from your opponent. Okay? I will put the Gatherer or the Oracle text here on the side here so you can read it a little easier, what it's updated to, and you can go from there. Master Thief steals an artifact. This is called Perplexing Chimera. This one, I'll have the English version up here so you can read it. It's pretty simple. When it's in play, when somebody plays a spell, you can swap the spell for him. Body Double copies any creature card in any graveyard. Annex hardened by the Forge, or in the Forge, sorry. So 3 to cast for a star 3. The power is equal to Devotion to red. Whenever Annex or another non-token creature you control dies, you create a 1/1 red satyr that can't block, and if the creature's power that died was 4 or greater, you create 2 of those tokens instead. Okay, that will make sense later. Captivating Crew, more stealing creatures. Furbolg Flutist. It should be Flautist, but whatever. So 6 to cast, 4/4. So it says when it enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature you don't control until end of turn. You untap it. It gains haste and myriad. And this text down here, that's myriad, so if you need to pause it, basically you just create a copy of the creature attacking each different opponent you have. Slag Strider, so it's got affinity for artifacts. So as many artifacts as you have in play, the cheaper he is. He's a 3/3 for 7, but again, affinity for artifacts. And then you can pay 1 and sacrifice an artifact, and he'll deal 1 damage to any target. He is in here because you'll see later I have some shenanigans with sacrificing stuff. You're stealing people's stuff, so what better to do with it than just take it, use it, and sack it. Molten Primordial, so high casting cost again, but this is a slower deck. Oh, that was the other thing I forgot to mention. The request was just pure chaos, no winning, just making people suffer. That's what this was all about. I forgot to mention that. Alright, so he's 7 to cast for a 6/4 haster. When he enters the battlefield, for each opponent, you gain control of up to 1 target creature that player controls until end of turn. You untap them, and they gain haste. So, again, just causing pure chaos and misery. That's what they wanted. Tragic Poet. 1 for a 1/1. 1 and sack him. Return an enchantment from your graveyard to your hand. You'll see why that's important a little later. Same thing with Restoration Specialist. You can return up to 1 target artifact and up to 1 target enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand for 2 as a 2/1. You'll see how that's important later. Dawn of Angel. Whenever a creature dies, if an aura you controlled was attached to it, return target creature with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. Now, unfortunately, there's not a lot of 2 in this deck. However, my hope is that it plays out the way I think it does. And I may actually remove this to add in something else. I have a card here I want to remove. I'm making the video now for it. I'm still undecided before I send it out. I'm actually thinking about taking that out, and I'll show you this. I think that... Nope, that's not the card. I don't have it with me. Anyway, this may be coming out before I send it because I have another card. I forgot to bring it in here to film with that may fit the deck better, but that's what that one does. Starnheim Courser is a 3-cast 2/2 flyer, and artifact and enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and that's going to be important later. Monk Idealist, when it enters the battlefield, return an enchantment from your graveyard to your hand. And Totem Guide Heart Beast. So it goes and searches for an aura card and puts it into your hand. And then Dominus of Fealty. So hybrid 5, blue-red, 4/4 flyer. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may gain control of target permanent until end of turn. If you do, untap it and it gains haste. So more stealing, more stealing, more stealing. It's not a very nice deck. It literally is exactly what he wanted. Just pure chaos and pain. Alright. So all that returning enchantments to your hand and all that, and auras and search and stuff like that is where we get all our stealing stuff from. We're going to have a lot of blue ones that do it. So, Legacy's Allure. This one's a little older, so you may not know this one. To the cast enchantment. During your upkeep, you may put a treasure counter on it, and then you can sacrifice Legacy's Allure to permanently gain control of target creature with power no greater than the number of treasure tokens. So if it has 2 counters on it, it can't be greater than 2. So 1 or 2 power creature. So it's permanent. And then the whole point of some of that stuff is to get enchantments back to your hand from your graveyard so you can do it again. Same thing with the next couple ones. Eyes Everywhere is a, I'm going to call him a swapper, if you will. So during your upkeep, you can scry 1, and then you can pay, 6 here to exchange control of this with target permanent and activate it only anytime you can cast a sorcery. So you can exchange this, which doesn't do a lot, and if they don't have blue, they can't use it, for maybe their commander. Annex takes a land. Abduction takes a creature. When the enchanted creature is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, obviously, that creature comes back into play and returns control. So there's a caveat to it. It's not as great as the next one. Or not the next one, the one after this. Steal artifacts, steals an artifact. Domestication. Man, I can't seem to come up on... I didn't put them in the right order. You control enchanted creature, and if it ever has power 4 or greater, you sacrifice Domestication. There it is. That's the one I was looking for. Control magic. Just control... You can control an enchanted creature for 4. This is an old card, but it's a newer version. Enthralling Hold, so 5 to cast, you control enchanted creature. You can't choose an untapped creature as the target for this spell. Confiscate, you control enchanted permanent, so it could be a land, an artifact, a creature, anything, as long as it's permanent. Take Possession has split second, which means when this is on the stack, nothing else can be played. You control enchanted permanent, see where this is going, and then Conquer, you take control of enchanted land. So, Annex and Conquer are the only ones that do that, I believe, in the game. So, that was the reason for all that, returning enchantments to your hand. There's other stuff in here, too, as well, but those are the main reasons. Alright. It's not the only stuff that you can do to steal stuff. We're going to start off with spells that do that now. So, Low Mage's Domination, you can read that. It can cost up to 3 less if the controller of the target has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, and you can gain control of target creature with converted mana cost or mana value, since they changed it recently, of X. Ray of Command, defensively, it's an instant that you can take control of an opponent's creature and untap it. Does it gain haste? Yeah, it does. It gains haste, so you can do it on offense or defense. The rest are going to be offensive, though, sorceries. So red has a lot of, how do I put this, I guess, steal cards for creatures. So Goat Nap is 1, Active Treason, they all untap and gain haste, and that's the reason why one of the cards in here is going to be in here. Pax Betrayal, they all have different abilities, so if you need something, they all have the same philosophy. They gain control of a creature, they untap and gain haste, and then they have some specialty that goes with them from each set that they were from. So if you need to read them, go ahead. Mark of Mutiny, Traitorous Blood, Portent of Betrayal, Traitorous Instinct, Mob Rule. Mob Rule's a little different. Oop, hit the camera. Alright, so it's 6 to cast for a sorcerer, you get to choose one. Gain control of all creatures with power 4 or greater until end of turn, you untap them and they gain haste. Or you can gain control of all creatures with power 3 or less until end of turn, untap them and they gain haste. So this one gives you all of one or the other. So if you're playing somebody with a lot of, white weenie or what I call it, going wide tactics or tokens that are like 1/1s or 2/2s, you can take all of them, and then we have some fun sacrifice stuff later. Legerdemain. So 4 to cast, permanently exchange control of target artifact or creature for control of target permanent of the same type. So a creature for a creature. So the reason why the annex is in here is because you're going to be creating some tokens, and I'll show you how in a little bit. And then you might want to exchange control of a stupid 1/1 that can't block for somebody's commander, say it's a dragon, good luck. Alright, and then role reversal. Exchange control of 2 target permanents that share a permanent type. So a lot of stealing, a lot of exchanging, a lot of, some copying. Copying permanents was a secondary theme they wanted and a very small sub-theme. We're going to continue on that with this, Hate Mirage. So copying time. Not a lot of copying, so it's a sub-theme. Choose up to 2 creatures you don't control, and for each of those creatures, create a token that's a copy of that creature, and they gain haste and exile them at the beginning of the next end step. So, commanders galore. People have some nasty commanders out there. You're going to copy them. You're going to steal them, and you're going to copy them. Ironicus's Vile Duplication. So, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, except the token has flying. Isn't legendary if that creature is legendary. So, again, stealing somebody's commander or big baddie. Somebody has some big stuff out there. If you're playing against slivers and they have, they're using the Cascade Sliver as their commander, but they have the queen and the 99, and they put the queen out, you can take it and copy it. And then Mirror Match. You can only cast it during declared blocker step, and then for each creature attacking you or a planeswalker you control, you can put a token that's a copy of that creature onto the battlefield, blocking that creature, and then exile those tokens at the end of combat if they survive, which they probably won't. So a little bit of copying, a lot of stealing, a little bit of copying. Alright, I mentioned earlier we're going to have a way to deal with all the, taking people's stuff. What do we do after they go back? Don't let them go back is the answer. Don't ever let their creatures go back. Bubbling Cauldron lets you sacrifice a creature to gain life. Carnage Altar lets you sacrifice a creature to draw a card. You see the theme here is you take their stuff and you sacrifice it. You don't let them get it back. With commanders, they can cast them again, but you just take them again and sacrifice them again. Phyrexian Vault lets you draw a card. These two are kind of polar opposites. One's 2 to cast and 3 to use. One's 3 to cast and 2 to use. Barrage of Expendables. So 1 and then 1 and sacrifice a creature, deal damage to our creature player. Do you see the theme here? Weaponize the monsters. The good one, Makeshift Munitions. This one's good because it lets you sacrifice an artifact or a creature. And then this one's a new addition to something. I actually found this by luck, by chance. I was going through some bulk and I was like, that'll work. So you can actually have it in play, and then for free, this is where that's important, you can actually sacrifice a creature for free. You don't have to pay anything. And then you can prevent all damage to a creature or player from one source. So it's interesting. If you're in combat and you're not the attacker, if it's not your turn, and you have Ray of Command, you can steal somebody's creature and then sacrifice it to prevent damage. Like, you can block another creature if you're being swarmed, and then you can sacrifice it to prevent damage from another source. So, good little shenanigans there. But that's what I was talking about, how everything synergizes. With Annex out, you're taking their creatures, you're sacrificing them, and if they're higher powered, creatures, you're getting 2 1/1s instead of 1. So, that's where that, Annex makes good sense. Defensively, I don't want to destroy a lot of people's stuff in this build. Why? Because I kind of want them to keep it so I can steal it. I want to sacrifice it. I don't want them destroying it. But sometimes, shit happens and you need to destroy some things. So, Immolating Glare. So destroy an attacking creature for 2 at instant speed. Same thing with Swift Response. Technically it says tapped creature, but it can mostly mean attacking. Sure, there are abilities out there that tap and then you can kill it, but most likely you're going to be killing a commander that's attacking. Expel, another one. Exile the target tapped creature. Split the party helps return them to their hand if you're overwhelmed and you can't gain an advantage. You can split the party, so choose a player, return half the creatures they control to their hand, round it up. Remember, in Pramikon, only one person can attack you. So you're not dealing with a pod, if you will. So it's always nice. And then if shit's really hitting the fan, Solar Blaze it's a quasi. I mean, it's not as good as a Wrath of God, but it's close. Each creature will deal damage to itself equal to its power. There is a card that I can throw in here, that plays off of that with damage being dealt, and then their controller's taking damage. I think it's called Repercussion. I can't remember. I'll have to read it. If it's the right card, I'll have it up there. I'll show you what it does. Anyway, last section we have is basically utility. Stuff that didn't have a specific goal in mind. It was just to help the deck. Dream Tides. So it's a 4-cast enchantment, and trust me, you're going to see this card in a couple more builds because I found this recently, and like I found it in my stuff. I was going through my bulk boxes, and I found this, and I thought, oh my god, I can actually use this to good use. Creatures do not untap during their controller's untap step. Why is that good in this deck? Because you're not really using a lot of creatures. You don't really care. The ones that you do have, their abilities work when they're tapped or untapped. On the plus side, people's stuff are going to be tapped with this out, say their commander, and you're stealing them, and all of your steal cards say untap them, and they gain haste. So, doesn't affect you in any way. Alright, and then it says, each non-green creature's controller may pay 2 during his or her untap, or upkeep, sorry, not untap, upkeep, to untap the creature. So what that means is that green creatures don't untap with this out at all, and all non-green creatures, they can, during their upkeep, pay 2 to untap them. Trove of Temptation. I don't like to put these in commander decks only because it encourages people to attack you, but with Pramikon out, only one person can attack you, and you get all benefit and not all of the negative. So each opponent must attack you or planeswalker control with at least one creature if able, and that's where that comes in, if able, with Pramikon out. Only one can. At the beginning of your end step, create a colorless treasure artifact token, basically a treasure token, and we know what treasure tokens do, and that's why I have the ability to sacrifice artifacts, because this is going to be beneficial. It's going to put treasure tokens out. If you need a color, fine. If you don't, sacrifice to deal damage to something or other things. That's where makeshift ammunitions come in. And the last card is Open the Armory. It's a tutor. I don't put a lot of tutors in the budget decks just because most of them are pretty expensive. This one was pretty cheap. Search your library for an aura or equipment card, reveal it, put it in your hand. And you saw the auras are stealing creatures, so. And that's the deck in a nutshell. With that being, the deck, if you have any questions about it, I can go over anything you need to do. Just, send me a message on the Facebook page. You can email me, bluebearsgames@gmail.com, or ask in the comments below. So those are the 2 decks. That was last week was Skakar. This week is Pramikon for the same customer who wanted 2 red, white, and blue decks. I mean, I'm not hating. It's a good color combination, in my opinion. I like it's a lot of fun. A lot of spell slinging. So, anyway, if anybody's interested in, budget decks, you know how to contact me. I gave you that information just a minute ago. I've been doing a lot of them lately, and I have a lot of precons left. Actually, I got like 8 or 9 precons left for Commander, and about 20 or so 60-card decks. If anybody's interested in them, just let me know. I'm starting to slowly run out. I got to build them, but with all these, custom decks, I haven't had a time to replenish, or haven't had a chance to replenish the precons. So, but if you guys want something, let me know. I'm starting to slow down a little bit to where I can get to it. I mean just a very little bit. So, anyway. Do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this out to somebody looking to possibly build a Pramikon build, I guess, for pure chaos, or just to be a dick. That's what this deck is basically for. So, other than that, I will see you all next week. Thank you for watching.